In 1 Thessalonians 5, Paul continues on the theme that he left off on in the previous chapter. He's talking about the resurrection and more specifically what Christians today might call the rapture. He says, "Now concerning how and when all of this will happen, dear brothers and sisters, we don't really need to write you, for you know quite well that the day of the Lord's return will come unexpectedly like a thief in the night." So this is the Christian idea that Jesus is going to come back someday, and he is going to take all of the believers with him. And again, that's called the rapture. And there are different views on the rapture. I'll put a link here if you want to learn more about the different views, and you can make a decision about, what you think about it. But so much of that comes from this passage right here. Let's scroll down a little bit further. Paul gets real practical in verse 8. He says, "Let us who live in the light be clear-headed, protected by the armor of faith and love, and wearing as our helmet the confidence of our salvation." Now, the reason I point this out is because a little bit later in our reading plan, you're going to read Ephesians, where Paul famously talks about the armor of God. And we see just sort of the beginning hints of those concepts right here. Remember, Paul wrote this letter before he wrote the letter to the Ephesians, but we see some of the same themes in both letters. Now, as we scroll down a little bit further, Paul's sort of wrapping up his letter, and he says, "Brothers and sisters, we urge you to warn those who are lazy, encourage those who are timid, take tender care of those who are weak, be patient with everyone." And so here's, sort of the fatherly advice of Paul, sort of the pastoral advice of Paul. I'll let you read this whole section. It's really pretty beautiful. And at the end of the section, he says this, "But just test everything that is said and hold on to what is good." What a great principle. Stay away from every kind of evil. And then Paul wraps up his letter with a final greeting, and he does this in all of his letters. He says, "Now may the God of peace make you holy in every way, and may your whole spirit and soul and body be kept blameless until our Lord Jesus comes again. God will make this happen, for he who calls you is faithful." And that's a great thing to remember, sort of being ready and living your life to honor God, like Paul emphasizes in this letter, is not just up to you. God is going to make it happen. If you trust him, if you continue to, connect to him, if you continue to stay in his word, then God is going to continue to give you the power to live out what you're reading in his word. So anyway, that's it for the first letter to the Thessalonians. So you're ready to read chapter 5, and then tomorrow we'll start on Paul's second letter to the Thessalonians. So we'll see you then.